Three,
Two,
two, one.
one. Monkey bars. Bars.
Cool.
Bars. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Thicc and Butter podcast. My name is Alex,
My name is Jesse,
aka Thicc.
and also Butter.
Bars. This is episode 68.
Hey,
I
I'm
almost said 67.
I'm 100% certain it's 68 this time.
Yeah, because
I've checked.
we're counting
and
down to 60.
double checked.
We're counting down to 69. That's really why you go.
Which is next week. I'm so excited.
Next week.
So freaking excited.
And yeah, so this is episode 57. You guys
There's no 68.
Oh!
It's not 67 at all.
67. It's 68! Holy fuck.
If you mix 67, check it out. It's up. It's everywhere.
67 is online, yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Would you talk about adaptation in episode 67?
No, we're talking about Wild at Heart. And kind of no, but yeah, we had a great time talking about Wild at Heart. That's on YouTube. It's on everything. That's on everything. We were kind of drunk that episode, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend checking that out. Today is a wild episode.
Yeah.
Wild episode. What we have planned to talk about today is
we have a bit of adjustment because last episode we were saying we were going to talk about Bill and Ted as well as I'm thinking of ending things. But I'm sure as what you were about to say is that I'm thinking of ending things was even more than we expected.
Yeah, it's a lot. Which was funny. We'll get to it. I don't know why I was shocked by that.
Yeah. It's kind of a Kaufman a staple.
Yeah,
it always
of course it is. So I don't really understand why I like when I watch it, like, whoa, dude, I should have been like totally. I don't know what I was thinking of that.
I feel like it's similar to like the experience I had with Wild at Heart, where you start it and you get lulled into it just thinking this will be normal. It's like it's not normal at all. Stupid idiot.
No. Wait, this isn't Fast and Furious 8. What am I watching, dude? So before we talk about that, we want to talk about something that we've never done on this podcast. We talk about video games, but not a specific video game.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 for a little bit because Jesse just beat it.
Finally, holy crap.
Yeah, finally. And we haven't had a lot of, we've kind of been talking about it, like, as you've been playing it, but I haven't gotten to talking about it after you beat it. And plus, I think this game is very, like, cinematic. So, I think it lends itself to... We're not even really going to talk about probably the gameplay aspects in this discussion. Because
it's just we just want to unpack the story because we've got to talk about the gameplay because we played it together, but we've only been able to sort of talk about the story in like these ambiguous and vague
exactly.
hidden ways because you don't want to spoil me. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, our discussions were like, did you
did you get to this part?
Did the horse guy? So we're gonna talk about like a spoiler kind of discussing about The Last of Us Part 2. Um, and if you guys don't know what The Last of Us is, I'm not going to explain it here.
Yeah,
just Google it. If you're a gamer, fucking play that shit, dude. Play the
it's
first
great.
one and play this one. And so this game just came out. This game came out June, I believe. I pre-ordered this shit.
Yeah,
I played it. I beat it like a week. I kind of marathoned it. And then I played it again, like halfway through again. And then I gave it to you.
yeah,
But so I am so this game is shrouded in a lot of controversy.
yep.
Um, really weird controversy, just because of the way the kind of the story goes. Decisions that were made and the story didn't sit well with a lot of fans.
Hmm.
But I think for both of us, I think those decisions paid off in a big way, in my opinion. Um, but I would love to talk to you
Yeah,
about what was your overall feelings on this game when you beat it? Like
yeah,
when the credits rolled, what did you what did you think of it? Like
yeah,
because this game is very big, it's long, and it's ambitious, it's am- ambiguous in a lot of ways. So I'm always curious to see what people think of it. So what did you
yeah.
think of it?
I mean, like it was always an intense experience all the way through because it's just so viscerally emotional, you
Yes,
know,
yes,
in just every moment that you're experiencing is evoking some deep melancholic connection with the characters.
yeah.
um
This is definitely
and
the most emotionally brutal video game ever made.
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty emotionally devastating.
and I would have to return to it again because I think that this is one of like the most well constructed dramas with all the interlacing levels of character relationships and backstories,
Yeah.
like for a video game.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
in terms of stories about comparing it to film. I don't really want to go there because like,
Yeah, it's hard, because
but
it's
the
such a
thing,
different medium.
yeah, but the thing about this game is that even if, which I don't believe this, even if if this was a film and this was like just a conventional drama as like a zombie film,
Which
I
it's going to be.
which yeah, so I'm excited to see that, to see how it translates, to
Right.
see it's like it's it's kind of normy,
Yeah.
but
Right.
in as a video game, it felt so poignant. It was
Yeah.
so poignant to experience
Totally.
this story. And
Yeah.
the other thing I liked about it is how um like you said, the story felt very cinematic, but
Hmm.
this is kind of a hard thing to describe. But what I liked about it is that it really did a good job of walking the line of not feeling some cinematic games, like cinematic, I wish I could think of an example, but are sort of like so in your face and action packed to try to get you to feel it that it feels like you're not really like experiencing the game. And
Sure.
I wish, and
Oh yeah.
it
Sure.
doesn't
Sure.
feel
Sure.
as
Heavy
it doesn't.
Rain.
Sure, yeah, something like that, which has a great story, but
Yeah.
sometimes you can be kind of removed from it. You don't feel
Right.
quite as immersed, or like,
Well, I think are you trying to say that? Because like for me, the problem with like the Quantum Realm, the guy, they make like Detroit, they're not really fun video games.
yeah.
They're
Well,
very
I like those games. I think they're
yeah,
fun.
maybe they're hot. It's a hot take of mine, but I like walking around
Yeah,
and picking up like orange juice and drinking my orange juice and deciding
yeah.
I want to put. It's not fun. It's not
No,
fun.
I
Um,
think that's perfectly understandable. I think
like I find, and but also I played Heavy Rain way later than it was when it came out.
yeah,
Like when that game came out, it was probably like we had things like God of War a lot. Like why the fuck would I like? There's so much more games that have this like deep emotional resonant story, but also extremely fun video
Yeah,
game on top of that.
I guess what I'm saying is that more of what I was impressed by, the things I don't like, because I like those extreme games because I sort of take them as like visual narratives as opposed to like video
Totally,
games.
yeah,
I think of it as
absolutely,
a
yeah,
genre, but
yeah,
the games I don't like are the games that are really cutscene heavy, just to
yeah.
sort of make the game longer, which is
Oh
like
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
like
yeah,
Call of Duty
yeah,
cutscenes and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's like it's
yeah,
just like, do we really
yeah,
have to get out of the gameplay to see this?
yeah,
But
yeah,
you and so I was not as big supporter um of cutscenes until I played Metal Gear,
right, yeah, right.
which
I
Metal
think for
Gear,
most people,
yeah, that was the case.
yeah,
I mean, he was the guy who sort of was just like, oh, I can video game can be like movie.
yeah,
We
right,
can do
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
So that's really what I like about this
yeah,
game was that it's not like Heavy Rain where it's just like a good story and visuals, and it's
yeah,
not like Dark Souls which is just story through pure experience.
yeah,
It's a blending of the cutscenes are as essential as the gameplay,
yeah, right,
and
right,
I
right,
think that blending is done so well and so impressively
yeah,
to make the whole thing just feel. And I also really like that there wasn't just parts that I like in it, because this game would also be really good if there was moments I really really liked, and because I can think of a couple of my favorite moments, and those, if everything else was shit, I would still love this game.
yeah,
But I think everything flows really well together, and the
hmm
story and how like you switch between characters and all of that. I like the more it sits with me, the parts that I might have had problems with, like maybe feeling like the ending was too open ended,
right,
or
sure, yeah,
spoiler, not
yeah,
playing as Ellie the whole game,
right,
like shit like that, or
right.
another big spoiler that Joel
That's a huge,
dies.
yes, yeah,
All of those things, like
yeah,
I feel after, as even though they unsettled me, the more I've sat with it, it
totally,
was like that was such a genuine way. Also, the great thing about this, what a fucking awesome sequel, because
yeah, totally, yeah,
it's
yeah.
such an expansion on the first Last of Us in
Well,
such an
in
awesome
terms of
way.
characters and in the
Yeah.
world,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
like what a great sequel should do.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm so glad you said that because I think that mindset that you have is that I think that every gamer who doesn't like this movie like isn't having. So like not every gamer, but a lot of people will see Joel die and not like that immediately and just write it off like they're
Yeah.
trying to make you like they're trying to be ballsy and do something crazy.
Yeah.
And like in one respect they are, but I like your perspective on it because I think it's like yes, when Joel dies in this game, that didn't really like I kind of saw that coming to be honest. Because like I thought it was weird that Ellie's on the cover of the game and like like what we're just gonna play and we didn't see Joel in any promotional material, so I was like,
Yeah.
all right, well Joel probably dies. But the shocking thing to me and everybody who played this game was the the Abby character and how she doesn't just she's not just a side character. She is a lead. I mean, she's the second lead in this game and
Yeah.
an
I mean, you
extremely
you
important
you play her for
character.
10 hours.
Exactly. And that is where when that happens, you know, of course you're gonna be a little like, what is this? You know, like this is
Mm-hmm.
because what I respect about Naughty Dog so much is holy crap, what a decision. They like, oh my god. Because
Yeah.
think about video games aren't just they don't take a year to make. They don't take 2 years to make. They take multiple years to make. And for them to decide that halfway through this game you're going to play as a new character, someone that not Ellie, not Joel, not these two incredible characters that our fan base has led up to at this point. We're going to take this risk and we're going to introduce a new character and not only and like you're going to first start hating her and then you're going to grow to love her. Um that was obviously the goal, right?
Yeah.
And to me, they did an amazing job at doing that,
Fuck
and
yeah. I
and to a
agree.
point where this is why I really think this game is amazing because, like you say, like when it first switches to Abby, like in the first in that 10 hour mark, you're like, I don't know about this. You know, you kind of deny it. At first, you're like, what am I? I don't like this. But because the game is so good at building like what Abby's her arc and the story that goes on, you get invested in it. And for some people, if you're not invested in that in Abby's story, I can see this game would completely fall apart for you. I
Yeah.
completely understand. But for me, the relationship that Abby grows with Lev and her sister
Yara?
Yara,
Yeah.
and mostly with Lev, but Abby kind of becoming kind of learning the beauty of humanity through those two characters again
Hmm.
uh, is absolutely beautiful, and it fits along with this world of Last of Us. It's I forget who said it, but kind of Abby's story is kind of the first Last of Us. Abby is kind of Joel in a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
mirrors Joel,
That's
where
really dope.
Joel is
Yeah.
someone who we found the love for humanity again through Ellie, and Abby knows this through Lev, and that is absolutely purposeful, and
Yeah.
and so. But what was crazy too is like what I really want to talk to you about is the ending of it
Yeah.
because I think the ending is extremely ballsy and I think it's genius and great, and I think the ending to me shows how crazy video games are.
Hmm.
Because so the ending of the game is there's the Santa Barbara sequence, which is like takes place years later after Abby and Ellie had this absolutely brutal
Yeah.
encounter.
Which, and
Um
as a gameplay and boss fights, the
yeah,
fights where you
yeah,
play against like Abby is so fucking Metal Gear and awesome. I could scream.
yeah,
It's so sick.
yeah. It's so good. And so basically Abby before the jump starts, Abby spares Ellie um and her girlfriend's life.
Yeah.
Um, she walks away, and it jumps years later, and Ellie is on a farm with what's her
Dina.
girlfriend's name, Dina, and they have a kid, and they're secluded in this beautiful um farmhouse, and she's still haunted by uh
Extreme
Joel.
PTSD of Joel's
Yes.
death.
And probably one of my favorite scenes dramatically. What's crazy about this?
Sorry, just to clarify, Abby kills Joel. This is why
Yeah, oh
this is
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
conflict of
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why Ellie
Um,
wants to kill Abby.
yeah, right. And one of my favorite scenes dramatically in this game is when Tommy, who's Joel's brother, comes to the house.
Which I thought he was dead. I totally thought he was
Yeah,
dead.
yeah, me too. But so he comes back and he's fucked up. I
Yeah.
mean, he's fucked up, and he's still
Severe brain injury or something.
yeah, and he's still uh on this. He's still reeling from uh he
Joel's
still wants to
death.
kill Abby.
Yeah. Revenge.
And he goes to, Ellie and kind of gets Ellie to go. And Ellie kind of Dina doesn't want her to go, but she does. Revenge gets the best of her,
Yeah.
right? And then we go to Abby, and it's this whole Santa Barbara sequence where Abby and Lev get captured by these,
Biker
cultists,
gangs.
yeah, these
Yeah.
gangs, um, and Ellie gets wind of this and tracks them down.
She gets wind that that Abby is living near Santa Barbara. She
Yeah,
doesn't
right.
know that she's being
Oh yeah,
captured.
true. Yeah, right.
So she goes to Santa
Um,
Barbara to find them, but she doesn't know that they have been captured.
yeah, and so what the game happens is you
Which is
basically
a great cause and effect setup, by the
yeah
way.
yeah
That's like
yeah
such
yeah
a
yeah
cinematic, brilliant, like
yeah
combining of circumstances that lead characters.
right
It's really good. That's just really well done.
yeah. And so the ending of the game is basically you find Abby, you go through all these the cultists, the biker whatever they are, cannibals, right? They're cannibals, I think, right? They eat
I,
people.
I didn't get that they were cannibals. I got that they used people as slaves.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was they're they're bad people,
Yeah,
and she finds her there, Abby and Len, and they look like skeletons. They've
yeah.
been there.
What happens is that she works really hard to get to where the slaves are kept, and she accidentally causes a slave revolt. Ellie does
Oh
by
yeah,
going
yeah,
through
yeah,
this
right.
camp. So
Yeah,
then the
right,
slaves get out and they get guns and they kill all of their people who trapped them.
right,
And she asks, "Where the fuck is Abby?"
right,
And they tell her that she escaped and they took her to the pillars. And she
right.
said, "What the fuck's the pillars? Go to the beach."
Yeah,
And
right.
that's when she finds them,
Yeah,
like you said, where they're basically skeletons because they've been crucified.
yeah,
Lev and
yeah,
Abby,
yeah.
which Abby was it reminded me of Berserk, which if you haven't seen Berserk, I won't go into that. So just for people who know about Berserk, it
Yeah.
reminds me of the sequence with Griffin and the Red Sun. But the point of that is the body transformation, where
Mm.
from
Yeah, oh,
Abby's
yeah.
going from being so buff and strong
Yeah,
to
right.
looking skinnier
Yeah, right,
and
right,
weaker than
right.
Ellie was so emotional to me.
Right. And that's where you kind of get to the genius of this game.
Yeah,
Because so the game starts with Abby kills Joel,
yeah,
the main character, a character that we're obviously attached to. We're like, fuck this bitch. And you play as Ellie and you hunt her down the first half of the game. And then it
yeah.
switches, plot goes back, you play as Abby and you get her side of the story. Her dad was the doctor who's going to do surgery on Ellie, all these things. So
Which is so
basically,
much more genius than any random backstory of like something that Joel did, because that
yeah,
moment in the first game was so emotional and a conflicted choice
right.
that you immediately are like, fuck,
Yeah.
that's I can't,
And
I don't know how I
one of
feel.
the things about it that's so genius is the first time you play The Last of Us, you're like, in my opinion, you know, the first game, when you just kill, you're like, fuck this, I'm killing everybody because I want to get Ellie out of it, you know? But this game takes that decision, and that's a big controversy around this game too. Is a lot of people think that that was justified, or that Joel should have done this. And like to me, I think that's insane. I mean, I
Yeah,
think like he brutally murdered those people. I mean, like that's the genius of the first game is that you don't really care that you're killing these innocent doctors who want to save the world from a
sure.
cure because Ellie is the person that
Well, yeah. Well,
they're gonna kill, basically.
most people, how people enjoy stories, which it makes sense. I understand why people think that because they see everyone
No,
but the main
absolutely, yeah.
character as not humans. They're just the opposition to the main character's
Well, that's
goals.
what,
And if
yeah,
you see it
exactly.
like that thing, yeah, the ending is just like, well, Joel's just getting through his opposition to get to the goal of saving Ellie. He's doing the right
Right.
thing.
And
But
but
think
what this,
about what the
yeah,
people he's killing are, which is
right, and
what you're
that's what
saying.
this game
Who are
does.
those people?
That's
Yes,
what this game
exactly.
does,
Which
and
is really
which is
cool.
genius. It's amazing. And so you're led up to this point. You grow to love Abby, and you grow to understand where she's coming from because she's not she's just as you know like Abby was going for revenge too. The
Yeah,
parallels between Abby and Ellie were so well realized within in the two narratives that were going on. There are some people that call this game like if you call this game lazy, I don't. You need to sit down.
yeah.
You need to really think about the story because I think you will not like that. But lazy is not what this is.
They
This
would say they said it's lazy because it's like tropey,
I
like
don't know. I
it's
think they
done
just think it's
before,
kind of like I don't
predictable
know.
or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's weird.
It's a criticism that really doesn't make sense to me because you could not like this game, but to call it lazy, there is so much detail and effort that goes into these two narratives. Like there's so many moments where you'll meet a character in on Ellie's side of the story. Like replaying it, I was like, oh my god, it's so because you'll meet a character, you'll either kill or meet a character in in the first part of the game as Ellie, and then you see that character again as Abby. And the
Yeah,
parallels between the two stories and how they kind of intertwine um, was amazing, far from lazy. I mean,
yeah.
um, but um, but so at the end of the game, the climactic thing is, they're gonna go see Ellie's like, I gotta kill her, and this fight ensues, this boss battle that ensues, and you play as Ellie, and you're basically fighting Abby,
Abby.
and it's the first time ever in a video
It's just
game
a
where,
fist fight.
yeah, it's a fist fight, and so brutal. And it's the first time in a video game where I'm like, I don't want anyone to fucking die. I
I
mean,
know.
this
Yeah.
needs to stop. This needs to end. And when Abby or Ellie finally gets her and starts to drown her, and Ellie just breaks down. She breaks down crying, and she just sits there, just empty look in her face, and lets Abby and Len go on the boat, and goes away. Um, and
Holy shit. Yeah.
and then we
Holy
get
shit.
which what I do only video games to do that, dude, because it is putting you in the shoes of these two characters. Like, there's no protagonist really,
Yeah.
because like, who are you rooting for? You're rooting for both of them. Like, you don't
Yeah.
want either of them to die because you have such an attachment to both these characters because you play through them. You can't
Yeah.
do this, and sure, you could maybe do this in like a TV show, maybe, but this is video game storytelling at its best. It's literally like taking what is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
great about video games and using it to its full effect.
I mean, specifically, I think what is so unique, that sequence that's so unique, is the juxtaposition of the very simple combat boss battle that you're fighting, which is not a hard boss battle.
No, no, no,
It's
no,
not
no.
like a well designed level in Mario.
Animations are
That's like,
crazy.
but
It's
yeah,
like
but
it feels so real.
yeah, but the thing that's so genius about that sequence is the blending of the cinematic, like cutscene, and transitioning to that after the
Yeah,
boss battle where you're fighting.
right.
Because when you're playing as when you're in the shoes of like actually throwing the punches. Also, there's another scene like that where early on when Ellie kills the one of she's the black woman. I can't remember
Oh
her name, but she's one of
yeah,
Ellie's friends. She's the
yeah,
doctor,
yeah,
one of
yeah,
the doctor,
yeah,
and you just have to press X, you
yeah,
square, you
yes,
press
yes,
square, and
yes.
all you're doing is you don't even see her doing it, but
Yeah,
you see her, you know that she's smacking the
that's a
shit out of this
yeah,
woman
yeah,
with a crowbar.
yeah,
Then that's kind of like that interactiveness
yeah, yeah,
where you can't just passively, like, you see things like this in film where you see, instead of like the goals of protagonists going forward, you just see these human interactions that's not fair and stuff. It's
right.
not common, but film has done stuff like that. But you can't get in it
Yeah,
like you can with
yeah,
that moment in The Last of
yeah,
Us, where, and it's almost, I don't know, it's just even more immediate, like your emotion. You just have no choice but to feel in
yeah,
that moment.
exactly, right,
And
yeah,
you're just, for better or for worse, you just have to accept like whatever feelings that Druckmann
yeah,
has set up for you. It's like they're coming, they're
yeah,
coming, and they're
yes,
coming really hard.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, I'm glad that you brought that moment up because that's another great like interactive moment that makes this
Yeah,
above any level of like if you saw this in a movie, it would be different. It's not forcing you to kill this person.
yeah,
That you're controlling this character. But so the final scene is I found it to be extremely heartbreaking, but weirdly hopeful at the same time.
Yeah.
And the scene is where Ellie returns to the farmhouse. Everybody's gone, because um, Dina was like so disgusted that Ellie would even do this again. She thought he was over Joel. Everybody's gone. The house is completely empty. And she's lost her fingers.
Yeah.
Um,
Because Abby fucking bit them off
Took them off.
in the
Yeah.
boss battle.
And so it's just this very quiet, like the first game. The way that this game ends is very subdued. It's very quiet and subdued. And the way that Ellie, she just kind of picks up Joe's guitar, and there's this flashback that is extremely powerful, where Joel, it's the last conversation that Joel and Ellie had. And this is another thing that's genius about this game, is like, we keep hearing about this night. The game opens about this night in a party,
Yeah.
and what happened, and we kind of get hints at it. And what's cool is that was the first scene that they ever revealed about this game, and it doesn't happen until the end of the game.
Yeah.
And so the way that they kind of intersplice that, they give you little kind of moments, and leading up to like knowing the night before Joel died and Ellie's relationship with Joel and what they had was so interesting and
Yeah.
like so powerful. The way
Which
that it ends,
which
oh
which like before we talk specifically about what happens in the ending, I want to comment on the genius of how they intersected that scene with the dancing scene,
yeah,
because the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
trailer in the way sort of gives us context at the beginning of the story,
right,
which was good.
yeah, yeah,
Seeing that
yeah,
in the chopped up pieces out of context, and it
right,
also goes to show how important editing is in film.
yeah,
Where if you have a segment, if you see something and you intersect it after like just seeing that as you're like, look, a love story. We're starting the game. But if you
yeah,
put that then at the end of the game, like he did, wow, does it feel different? And
yeah,
that
yeah,
is like such a
yeah,
genius. It just it goes to show that they're not just like they know how the fuck to write a story by like how they're
oh yeah,
manipulating this time and putting it in place,
yeah,
because they're not trying to just tell you what happened. It's easy to tell you the sequence of things that happen, but
yeah,
they're trying to make you take all these events and place it in the way to make you feel what
yeah,
happened.
exactly,
And
yeah,
that
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think that was such an impressive,
yeah.
masterful way of like,
It's
and such like,
incredible.
and also it shows
Yeah,
how much Neil Druckmann knows. He's like, I can show this.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
I can
yeah,
show
yeah,
this.
yeah,
It's not, and they're
yeah,
still gonna
yeah,
feel that. It's like, holy
yeah,
shit, that guy
yeah,
knows what he's doing.
yeah, yeah, dude. He's an amazing. I would love to see him make a movie. Like, I would love to see him make a film. Just
Yeah,
really love to see what it would be like. So I just think he has such a grasp on the cinematic language. He just
yeah,
gets it. He
yeah,
just gets it. That's
yeah,
all I can really say. It's just,
yeah. Well,
and
he just fucking knows stories. He just knows
yeah,
how they
yeah,
work.
exactly. Yeah, he just gets it. And that that flashback is kind of like, it's so fucking sad
Yeah,
because the conversation they have is basically like, Ellie basically tells him like, I will try to forgive you. That's the last moment that they have together, is I'll try. You know
which
and
forgive you about not
yeah,
letting
right.
her die to create a cure for the
Yeah.
zombies.
And it's so devastating. And the way that the
Yeah,
game ends, I find to be absolutely beautiful. She
yeah,
tries to play the song. She can't. It's kind of she can't play it with her fingers. And she just kind of gets up and puts the guitar and leaves it behind, and walks away. And we get that beautiful. The graphics in this game though are just, they're
yeah.
insane.
George's.
And there's that beautiful last song. Cameron tracks in on the moth
Yeah,
that she has a tattoo of
Yeah.
on the guitar, and then it kind of ends. And
Yeah.
to me, it kind of signified um, she's finally she's accepting it. She's accepting Joel's gone and finally walking away from it.
Yeah.
And what I think I got the most out of this game is that loss is um really fucking hard. And there's no like revenge isn't going to fix your the longing for somebody, right? Getting revenge on somebody most likely will not, you know, cure you of, you know,
Right.
uh because at the end of the day, who you're killing is another human.
Yeah.
And you don't know, and that's what the genius about Abby's side is. It's showing you the person that you think that thought was the villain, there is no villain. You know,
Yeah.
there is no. There actually there kind of is. Jeffrey Wright's character Ivan, he's kind of the villain of the
Isaac?
game. Yeah, Isaac.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Leader of the Wolves.
yeah, yeah. He's kind of the villain, I guess.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, there's really no really villain. That's what's so genius about The Last of Us. Is in this
Right.
world, it's a lawless world. There's
Yeah.
no good. I mean, there's. And it's just it's so black and white. You know,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we love Ellie. She's a good person, but she's also murdering throughout the game. You're murdering hundreds and hundreds of innocent people, and the world
Yeah.
is so it feels so realistic and so impactful. And
Yeah.
so that's why I think like The Last of Us is such a incredible franchise. And I just
Yeah.
it's just so unique in the
Yeah.
zombie realm because they just understand they take this realistic approach of like if this would happen in a real life setting, this is kind of what it would be like. I mean,
Yeah.
humans are complicated. You know, it wouldn't be God of the Living Dead or God of the Dead. You know, it'd be God of the Dead. Well, that's a horrible example. I take that back. But
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
awful example. I mean, like I was maybe, you know what I mean though, like
I know.
other
I know
totally
exactly what you
zombie
mean.
shit.
Yeah.
Um, so like
Yeah. I mean,
that's what kind of makes it stand out
and I mean
so far.
the other thing about it, which maybe say is different than something like Dawn or Dev or most conventional storytelling that I think is just really awesome and ballsy about The Last of Us, is how important. Like I'll use a comparison to music, where there's a moment in jazz where you hear this about soloing, where sure, there's a period in bebop where bebop was all about like playing really fucking fast. Think John
Yeah,
Coltrane. Every single moment is filled with some crazy, complicated saxophone lick.
right.
Everything going on. It's full of shit happening.
Yeah.
But then Miles Davis was like, "Fuck this," and then he for his solos he played like 3 notes, and then we
Yeah.
got Kind of Blue, which is the best-selling fucking jazz record of all time. And this concept is the idea of space. You see this in visual art. Sure, you can fill the whole page with fucking shit, but sometimes you just need to put a couple of lines and you have a
Yeah,
masterpiece.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
right.
something I think
Yeah.
the Last of Us does so well, which I think a lot of video games, since it's so young, they're trying to
Yeah.
prove themselves as genuine experiences. So they're
Right.
filling up every single space with something to look at or
Yeah,
something
right,
to
right,
do.
right.
Last of Us doesn't try to do that.
No.
It lets there be so much open space, which I think was amazing about the first ending,
Yeah.
and the same thing about this ending, where it says we don't fucking know about what's going to happen with the zombie
Yeah.
apocalypse or how to
Right.
deal with these things. And when someone dies that you love uh, before their time, there's nothing you can do to bring them back, and
Yeah,
there's no
exactly. Yeah.
closure for that.
Right.
But tomorrow's going to come. The
Right.
sun's going to come up. So
Right.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
And that's the
Right.
kind of thing where it's like it doesn't tell you what you're going to do to make you feel better. It just says this is the life of dealing with shit like this in
Yeah,
a
right.
zombie
Right.
apocalypse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's I we haven't even talked about the gameplay and how great the fucking game
Yeah,
is, but it's great.
yeah,
It's just the first one just kind of better, like in terms
yeah.
of gameplay wise.
The only thing
Um,
I could possibly complain about it would be like the game, but the gameplay is so fun and diverse. It doesn't really
yeah,
feel like much of a problem. It's just that like it can be repetitive, you know?
absolutely, one hundred
Sure,
percent.
like you're like how many times do you want to fight like
How many
guys?
times am I gonna open this goddamn drawer?
Right, right. So there's it's repetitive,
Yeah,
sure, like the
yeah,
gameplay to it,
yeah.
but it's really good
It
gameplay.
keeps it fresh with new enemies, new locations. This
Yeah,
game, one of my favorite things about the gameplay in this game is they expanded the levels so much bigger.
yeah,
There's so
yeah,
many more different ways that you can approach a level. That's
yeah,
really fucking cool. I
I
love freedom like that. It's so cool. Like you can do it self way, or you could go. What this game kind of wants you to do is be faster and be more aggressive,
yeah,
and because Ellie's is more capable than Joel, so it kind of mirrored that, um, and I thought it was so much fun. Like all the levels were so much fun. There's so many
yeah,
like I want to replay some because
yeah,
there's one in Abby's story where she goes into an apartment and you have to go down level after level and there's different infected in like each level. It's so tension filled and awesome and
yeah,
it's awesome, dude.
yeah,
I love that part.
yeah. There's a lot of great moments like that.
The rat
But
pig.
yeah, oh my god. But anyways, I think that we talked about that. I feel I'm glad to finally have a chance to sit down and talk with you about that
Yeah, dude.
game. But
It's
let's
great. Genius.
transition and talk about this other fucking crazy story that we decided to talk about this week, which is Kaufman's "I'm Thinking of Ending Things."
Yeah.
Do you want to pitch it,
Yeah,
boy?
yeah. So this is so 2 weeks ago, we reviewed an adaptation. This is written and directed by, like you said, Charlie Kaufman, who
Woo!
is top three filmmakers for me.
Uh huh.
I'm absolutely obsessed with his movies. I am obsessed with his movies. Um, I think he is a genius. I think he is. All his movies that he has written, I have been obsessed with. And so I was so excited to see this is his third movie that he's wrote and directed.
Hmm.
And the past two movies that he's directed have been, in my opinion, his weirdest movies so far. Connected to New York and Animalusa. Um, Animalusa is a great movie, but it is so bizarre. Like the concept of that movie is so bizarre. It's so
Yeah.
bizarre. But it's genius, I think. And so I'm so excited to see this movie. And it's weird. Like what we said at the beginning is like I sat down, I was like, all right, I'm ready to watch this. I didn't really prepare myself. Like I didn't really realize I was watching a Charlie Kaufman movie until like 30 minutes in. Like and then it really sat in. I was like, oh, I'm like back. I
Oh.
felt like back at home. I was like, oh, dude, yes. Like, oh my god. So wow, how do I describe this? So this is a movie about a young woman and her boyfriend. Um, and the woman doesn't really have. She has a bunch of names, and her boyfriend Jake, played by Jesse Plemons, and
Genius actor.
genius actor, incredible actor. And they are going on a road trip to visit his parents, and for a little bit, and things get weird. I mean, that's all I can really describe to like the
Real
way to
weird.
describe it. Um, so I'm not gonna make it no secret. I thought this movie was genius. I absolutely fucking love this movie. But I'm also kind of I don't know if I'm biased because I love all of Kaufman's movies. I This is a movie that he made a movie that I will most likely never stop thinking about in my life. He
Hmm.
made another one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is so layered, and I saw it a couple days ago, and I only seen it once, and like I don't. What I love about this movie is like I didn't read anything. I didn't read like any articles about it. Like I'm kind of trying to I was waiting for this discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to get my interpretations of what this movie is about.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I didn't really want to look at anything, see what you think, or because I I fucking love this movie. I think like the more and more I think about it, the more I think it's Charlie Kaufman. It's so unique and original and different, and the acting is fucking phenomenal. It's funny. It's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
heartwarming. It's like everything. In my opinion, you get kind of the best of both. You get the best of Charlie Kaufman in this movie, and so I'm curious to see what you think of this movie because there's a lot of elements to this movie that I know most likely turn you off.
Yeah, well, dude, with Charlie Kaufman, I had this experience with adaptation too. I think he's such a brilliant person, which the point that I think you're getting at is the cringiness of this film. And
I
just
don't think
cringe.
cringy is the right word. I mean, it's uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I
unsettling.
I think it's terribly cringy. But like and because like I was cringing in my seat. It
Well,
physically
yeah,
made
it's
me
unsettling.
cringe.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but the thing about it is that even though I despise cringe stuff, I
yeah,
don't like experiencing that. The thing about Kaufman is that I find him so brilliant that it's worth it to me to experience it.
yeah.
And it goes to show how great this movie is because I even like the cringe scenes, you
Right.
know?
I mean the right. I mean, like I yeah. So yeah, that's something that's been thrown around a lot about this movie. You're not the only one to say that. I mean, this movie
Yeah.
is extremely uncomfortable.
Which I mean,
For
adaptation
not
was
the
like
whole
that.
thing, not the whole
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah.
there's definitely very uncomfortable scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that are we? This is spoiler, right? Like, are we gonna go spoiler heavy with this?
Yeah, yeah, I think that we
Okay.
basically would have to stop now if we wanted to
Yeah,
not talk
right.
about
Okay.
spoilers.
So we're gonna probably talk about spoilers for this movie because, like,
Yeah.
it's on Netflix, by the way. Check this movie out if
Yeah,
you're
it's totally worth it.
Charlie Kaufman. This is another.
Also, if you're just bumming around Netflix, man, this is like one of the way more interesting Netflix's
Way,
experiences you're gonna have.
holy crap! That is one
Honestly,
thing that I was gonna say. This is the best Netflix original movie, in my opinion.
yeah, definitely.
There's not a
Yeah.
Netflix original movie that
I would I would I would
Marriage
give
Story
them
is really good.
yeah, that's true. I would give it the benefit of the doubt and have to look at them all, but I can't think of
Definitely my
anything.
favorite. Definitely my
Yeah.
favorite.
Marriage Story is great, but I think I like
Marriage
this
Story is
better
incredible.
too. Yeah.
Incredible. I
Yeah.
just like love Charlie Kaufman. I mean, I'm gonna watch this movie more than Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so let's get like into this movie and like what
Sure.
I really want to talk about. So, oh my god, how do I even? Okay, so this movie kind of is brilliantly directed in the way that Kaufman kind of reveals things to you, kind of towards the end, and kind of throughout the movie is like so genius to me, and like thinking about kind of the ending and in relation to the beginning of the movie and how he was setting these little morsels and Easter eggs throughout the whole movie that kind of led up to what this movie actually really
Uh-huh.
is kind of genius, and it's amazing. It's he does this with all these movies, and so basically, um, I'm gonna give my interpretation of what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I'm
this
I'm really
movie is.
curious. I want to hear it.
So my opinion about, like, I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I would be shocked if I'm not, and if you
Yeah.
don't think this. But
Which
to me,
I don't know, by the way. I read some opinions of Kaufman that I kind of
okay,
have an idea of what he was thinking, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
yeah,
there really is a way necessarily.
right,
That's kind of what his movies
yeah.
are about. So it's like I don't know. I'm very excited to hear what you're going to say.
So so this movie to me, this whole movie, is a figment of Jake's imagination. The janitor is Jake,
Hmm.
and what we are watching is Jake going through his regrets, his fears, his loss, his his ideal woman, and I think that's who the character is in this movie. She has no name. She has multiple names. Um, and the ending of the movie, when we finally are kind of revealed that the old man almost was kind of like, he dies in his car.
Right.
And I think what this movie is that he is going through, his whole kind of life and his regrets and his, all these things, tons of things before he dies.
Hmm.
And so that's what I think this movie is.
Yeah.
Um, and I got just with that in my head, I got a lot out of this movie, and it made the movie make a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Um, and so, um,
That's kind of a fun thing about this movie is that, which he mentioned this in this article, is that it's not it's extremely abstract and expressionist. It's not abstract, it's more expressionistic,
yeah, right.
where like it's just showing, it's showing a very kind of normal thing through a very feeling lens,
Hmm.
so, and things sort of are dictated by how they feel more so than what makes sense.
Yeah, right.
But
Right.
the
Yeah,
cool
right.
thing about this movie is that you're watching, you're like, what the fuck is going on? None of
Yeah,
this makes sense. Why is
yeah,
this happening? And
right.
by the end, and I love this, I love movies like this. You sort of let it, like Wild at Heart was like this. David Lynch films, a lot of
Yeah.
movies, a lot of great
I
movies.
feel like he kind of pulled into his Lynch bag a little bit in
Yeah.
this movie a little bit.
Well, what this reminded me of, what this reminded this, yes, it does remind me of Lynch a
The
lot,
last
but
20 minutes of it.
yeah, it also really reminded me of Mother. Um, like
Wow.
I could
Yeah.
I could not stop thinking about. I don't think that it's like a ripoff of Mother at all. It's just like,
Not
whoa.
even a little bit.
It's like, and mostly it's just the scene when the time traveling shit when they're inside the house. I was like, oh my god, I'm getting
Oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah.
mad,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
mad
Yeah.
Mother
Yeah. Totally.
flashbacks
Yeah. Yeah.
between
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But beyond, when you're outside of that scene, which is, I think is crazy, he kind of created one scene, which was the whole movie of Mother,
Yeah. Right.
and
Right.
then added on all this. Which, oh my, we got to talk a bit about the ending, but
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think
yeah,
like, well, so like, it's hard to like, I want to see this movie once, and I need this. I'm probably gonna watch it again very soon. But and it's so funny because this is one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen. Like, like
yeah,
what this movie is
it's a pretty
about.
big bummer.
Like my thesis, that's so depressing. Like
Yeah,
what this movie is basically him, Jake, the janitor, getting hypothermia and dying in his car, and basically having this um like his life flashing before his eyes,
right,
basically.
right.
Um,
Which
so sad.
I agree. I agree with that, that reading of it. I think that that's pretty accurate. If we're going to talk about this having a specific meaning, which I don't think you have to,
Yeah,
necessarily, but I the book that this was based on had that ending, where the
yeah.
ending was that, Jake was the real person, and Lucy, whoever the fuck the girl's name
And
was, James,
Lucia,
yeah,
she's referred to a lot of
a
characters in this
different
movie,
name.
and brilliantly. Oh my god, what's her name? Jessie Buckley, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Dude,
yeah. She's a
she
great performance.
blew me the fuck away.
I've
Like,
never seen her ever before.
dude, I absolutely love her in this movie. Like, I think she was pitch like perfect.
Yeah.
There are because what I love about her character is she seems throughout the movie when you take that kind of but if you look at this movie like he's created this ideal woman, right? There are scenes where her character almost like changes.
Hmm.
And like there's that great scene where she's revealing that John Cassavetes movie.
A
And
woman under the influence.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's a different person. She
Yeah.
pulls a cigarette out of nowhere, basically, and just
Yeah.
starts smoking a cigarette, and
Yeah.
almost is like in a different accent.
Well,
It has this
she literally does an impression of, I think it's Paula Keene. That name might be totally wrong, but it's some kind of famous film critic, which
right.
I think she was literally reading an essay that she wrote.
Wow, okay. And that's another thing about this movie that I would love to look at. There are so many literary references, so many
Holy
art
shit! Yeah.
references, so many different references in this movie that um 100% tie in with the themes and the narrative of the film. One of
Yeah.
my favorites being that the paintings that
Hmm.
the young woman has are not. I'm pretty sure those are not. Those are like made by a real. Those are famous paintings.
They're famous
Yeah,
paintings.
like
Yeah.
made by a different person.
Which, based on
And
your interpretation, makes sense because he's like accumulating, like he's granduring.
yeah,
He's the image of grandeur of himself. So
yeah,
he's made paintings that are like award winning. He's a
right.
physicist. He's all
Right,
this
and that's
stuff.
what kind of the
So
basement kind of represents to me. Like, I don't go in the basement, and when she goes in the basement, it's just all those paintings, and it's kind of pictures. There's a picture of her down there, and what I love about this movie too is that the first half is kind of setting up like a horror movie. Like
yeah,
he's
right,
very
yeah,
brilliant. Uh, this is how good of a filmmaker he is because like you were getting at, the unsettlingness of this movie comes from the first half
yeah,
of this expertly edited, where the tension is just out of this world. It is
right.
like I like when they first get there. I can recall like one of my favorite scenes, like moments, is when she's looking at the dog and she's just watching the dog
Shake,
shake,
yeah,
and the sound design and like the sound design is so expertly crafted in this movie, and it just makes you so like on edge. And the parents played by David Thewlis, I
yeah,
love him,
yeah. I
but
like him too.
Tony Collette, like they are
Brilliant.
brilliant. They are so funny. They're such a Kaufman character. Like they're
Yeah,
so, but this is definitely like his most unsettling movie that he's made. Like this movie is that dinner scene is so
yeah.
unnerving. It's so tension filled.
Which in addition to, it has this comparison, part of it's just Toni Collette and her performance, her crazy performance, but it also has its reminiscence of qualities of the Hereditary dinner scene, where
Right.
there's just like
Yeah,
that
sure.
tension
I know,
of
yeah.
like a family, and
I know.
also, well, it has a really interesting dynamic of their like of underlying anger and uncomfort and mystery, where you don't know exactly what the fuck's going on.
Right.
And you're just really tense and
Yeah.
uncomfortable about it, which, it takes a totally different direction than
Yes.
Hereditary, but it has that kind of like power to
Yeah.
it, that kind
And
of
also
horror movie dread.
yeah, and it comes from I think that the tension kind of comes from that you kind of care about Jessie Buckley's character, the young woman, because she like we're with her whole life and her whole the whole movie, and up until that point, and she's basically you know um like doing the Kaufman thing. I don't even really know how to describe it. Where she's this character that's kind of this intellectual that she is thinking of all these kind of philosophical questions and
Yeah.
about life, about death, I also think a major theme in this movie is time and
Yeah,
how and
definitely. Oh my
how
God.
and like that is and interestingly that is a theme that has carried over to the movies that he's directed. Both Anomalisa and Shingeki to New York for sure definitely deal with time and kind of death. And there's this amazing line in I'm thinking of ending things where she talks about how time we're going through time, and time is just like the wind, like
Yeah.
or we're the wind in time.
Well, she
And
was saying that like we always say that we're moving through time, but sometimes I
time
think
through
it's
moving
time
through
that's
us.
moving through
Right.
us like the
Yeah. Right.
wind,
Right.
which is
Right.
which is exactly what it felt like in that because what
Yes.
happens in the scene in the house is that it starts fairly weird, but normal
Normal.
besides being
Weird
weird, just an awkward
parent
dinner.
encounter. Yeah.
But what happens after the dinner is that they start aging rapidly and then
Yeah.
becoming younger. And every room she goes in, she's seeing a different stage of the parents in their life.
Right.
So it was literally like time was just revolving around
Right.
her.
Right. Yeah. And it's so funny because I mean, if we take this as the subconscious of the Jake character and the janitor character, it's almost like he's going through what it was like for his parents dying, kind of recollecting that if he had a woman with him,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Or
it's
even like where I think this is something that was in an article I read where he was saying it was like him attempting to find the perfect place to introduce like his girlfriend. Like when would be the right moment in his life for the love of his life to come in,
yeah,
so him seeing that scene was, from the perspective of Jesse, it was madness to us, but for
right.
him it was just he was just testing it in his
Yeah, yeah,
imagination.
yeah. That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Um, and then I guess another like thing I want to mention too that struck me a lot is the like one of my favorite things about Kaufman is his meta take on Hollywood and
Yeah.
movies. And this movie has a scene that I laughed out loud, like
Oh my God.
gut
Yeah.
bustingly laughing like at this moment because it just so the janitor is watching this like Hollywood movie, this like movie, this corny ass
Rom
romantic
com.
comedy where the like she's like a waiter and like this guy's like she's a vegan. She's like I don't want to serve you meat, and they like sit on like the curb side of this corny ass conversation, and they hold hands, and it just cuts and says directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah.
That killed me. That
Yeah.
killed me. Like, and I'm a big Bob Zemeckis fan, but that absolutely
Yeah.
murdered me
I
because
thought that was so
it's
funny.
so like it was such a perfect choice to choose him because he's such a especially now such a corny Hollywood filmmaker.
Yeah.
It's just such a shot kind
Which
of these
apparently that was randomly chosen.
really that's
Yeah.
so funny. That's actually really funny.
Yeah.
But but even with all Kaufman, like that scene doesn't just end there. It carries on throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Like the way that this movie ends, which we can kind of get to, where we see kind of this Hollywood kind of ending kind of play out, this kind of like dance scene, uh, like it is in his head, kind of
Yeah.
this fantastical. We got married. It's a actually beautifully interpretive
Yeah. Well,
dance
before
that
before
happens.
we, I want to talk about that a little bit, but
Yeah.
we can talk about that now. But let's just before we get to that, just want to establish sort of the structure of how we get to a point like that, which I think is so crazy that we could get to a place where we change into this ballet, a literal ballet that happens.
Right.
Because we transition from the road trip, which this movie's, it's so weird because you spend 30 fucking minutes of this movie in a goddamn car.
Yeah,
and you stay in,
yeah,
and it's
incredible.
really interesting. It's just a conversation between the two characters.
Yeah.
Then they have the house scene with the parents, and then they get back in the goddamn car for another fucking 30 minutes, and then they chill in there. So it's and that point, eventually they get a detour after so much crazy shit. Like you have the movie critic impression. You have like so many like blending of their personalities where they just seem to shift and like
the Twisty
move like water, and then they stop at like a Dairy Queen and stuff.
Twisty what's it called? I love the name for the place, but I can't remember.
I can't remember it either.
Twisty
it's
something.
Queen something. I don't know.
No,
But
it's like
that's
Twisty something.
I can't remember. Eventually Jake insists that they stop by his high school, and when they go to the high school, which is the high school that we've seen the janitor cuts intercutting of the janitor cleaning up, that's when we're introduced to the crazy fucking final act of the movie, where Jake runs into the high school, which you'll understand if you watch the movie, but we'll just say that he goes into the high school, and eventually Jessie Buckley has to follow him in, and she can't fucking find him, and she runs into the janitor, which that scene's a moment that I loved, where it's the interaction, but it changes into once she finds fucking Jake finally in this weird ass white high school, then these two dancer doppelgangers come in, and they start this ballet that you were talking about.
Right.
Which, dude,
yeah,
you're right. It's like this Hollywood extravagant ending.
Right. And it's so deeply sad. Because when you talk about, because this whole movie is kind of happening as the janitor is almost like dying.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of, what's so genius in the way that the janitor's kind of cut into the movie. Like, one of the first shots of the movie is the janitor, where he's looking out, this old guy's like looking out the window.
Yeah.
And
down at Jessie Buckley,
kind of looks up and sees, and then the calls that she's getting from, like, I didn't know the purpose of that.
That's something I don't quite understand either. I don't know. But the mentioning about, like, I thought, like, that was a really great thing about the very beginning of this film, because that shot where you see the janitor, it cuts to him, an old man, and then it cuts to Jessie Buckley, and then it cuts back to him, but he's Jake. He's the young Jake.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we immediately have the information that, oh, maybe this is the same person.
Yeah, right. It's genius. It's incredible editing, and so, but, like, it's just deeply sad, because he's basically like, he's recollecting his life kind of the way that he wanted it to go, or the way that it went, and a lot of different things, and it's so dense that it's so hard to really talk about. But we gotta kind of talk about, like, the scene when he dies.
And I think that I think what's so interesting about this build up to that scene where he dies is how all of these emotions about these regrets in the past life that he has. I love how accurate it is to some of the fantasies that normal people have, which is why that crazy ballet sequence works so well. Because it's like, we've always thought about, like, slipping into a music video or something like that, or like you see someone that you're attracted to and you imagine your whole life, and most of the time you're not seeing it as, like, specific moments, you're seeing it as a musical montage. So, like, the expression of, like, it's kind of poignant that this man in reality is just living this fantasy, but the fact that the film got made is a way that his life has meaning. That Kaufman then took this weird fantasy and choreographed it into this fantastic performance. That for this otherwise very sad and meaningless and not important life. Which and you're talking, and when you're talking about the way he dies, which are you talking about like the pig thing?
Yeah.
That might be my favorite scene in the movie.
I think it's crazy. Yeah. It's fucking insane. So he also he guys with hypothermia in the car, and like brilliantly like a scene before Jesse Buckley character asked Jake, and she goes, "How long will it take the guy in hypothermia in the car?" This is pretty funny, but so he as he's dying, he sees this definitely the most surreal and whacked out moment in a Kaufman movie. Period.
Yeah.
Well, there's some pretty crazy shit in Beings on Alphabets, but like definitely, this is like the weirdest that he's done.
Especially blending animation.
Yes, and so he sees the Twisty Town. That's what it was called. Twisty Town. And the Twisty Town. Yeah, Twisty Town. Yes, that's absolutely what it was called. And he sees like the commercial for Twisty Town, the ice cream shop. And the pig who he talks about as a traumatic moment kind of earlier in the film with the pig at the farm with the maggots.
Yeah. And also you see the billboard talk, which I had to rewind that because when the pig, like there's a moment where they're on the road, the first time they're in the car, they're on the road and they pass this sign that's for like just like a farmer, and the pig turns its fucking head towards the car and says, "Come join me," which is one of like freaked the fuck out of me that when I first saw it and I watched it the second time. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
I think I missed that, dude.
Dude, yeah. Like, it's really easy to mix because it's mixed really low and the animation is done so subtly. It could have just been like you're moving in the car, but it turns its fucking head and says, "Come join me."
That's crazy.
Just like how the animated pig, which is the pig with the maggots in its stomach, looks up from the snow and says, "Come join me." And
my god.
Dude, it gives me chills. It's so freaky.
That's crazy. That's awesome, though. That's so sweet. But so the pig starts talking to him, and he says, "Hey, it's gonna be okay. Come with shit like that. Like, come with me. Let's go."
Yeah.
And really, honestly, made me laugh. I mean, it's this perfect.
Yeah, me too.
Blending of like, what the fuck is going on, and kind of that's Kaufman. I mean, it's so poignant and impactful in terms of like the story and like what's happening, but it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, which I think absurd. Which I think that technique, which is so uniquely Kaufman, is one of the reasons why I think this movie. I was thinking about how this movie, because Eva watched this whole fucking movie with me. Can you believe that? She watched this whole thing with me. Eva does not like weird shit like this, but she was compelled to watch it. Which I think the thing about Kaufman is that he's able to make these movies that should be so goddamn pretentious and make them so fun and accessible.
I mean, that's what I love about him. I mean, you just described probably like correctly about him. Is that he makes these incredibly fun, weird, eccentric movies, but they are so deep with themes and layers and so much to chew on. I mean,
and it's not about him like saying, "I'm so smart, I can do all this." It's more like it's like he like an adaptation. He wishes he was his twin brother who could make conventional movies because there's so much pain in creating things this way. And I think that like, and all of his movies show it's just like it's a reflection of the difficulty he has just existing as the human. Which it's that kind of vulnerability depicted on screen, I think immediately makes it more relatable and not
Absolutely.
something that's like pretentious and heady,
Yes, yeah. And like
Wonderful.
I could see somebody thinking that this movie is kind of very heady and wordy.
Yeah, it
Because a lot of
is.
it, like you were saying, it is. I mean, a lot of it, but the thing is, it's incredible writing. It's super
Yes, yeah,
funny and it's super, it's so dense with like references that you can kind of look up and kind of see how they kind of connect to kind of what the movie's kind of about. And, but so when the naked Jake follows the pig, it cuts to Jake, the younger Jake, winning a Nobel Prize, basically, and finishing with singing a musical number from Oklahoma.
yeah.
And
Which
honestly,
the
beautiful rendition of it.
Yeah,
And
honestly,
then,
but the Nobel Prize speech that he gives, by the way, is word for word the Beautiful Mind speech.
interesting,
Yeah,
interesting.
just another interesting side note about it. But you were
Oh,
talking about
like the movie?
yeah, like the
Oh,
movie.
like the Ron Howard, A Beautiful
Yeah.
Mind?
Well,
Oh my
also
god.
like the movie and the real person, like that.
Yeah,
It's that
I forgot what his the
speech.
last petition. I can't remember his name.
I can't either. Yeah, but
But
that was
oh,
his
John
speech.
Nash. That's his name.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, then it
That's
transitions.
that's so fascinating.
Yeah,
I didn't
right.
know that. Yeah, that's crazy. Huh. But yeah, I mean it's cool because now it makes sense that he's pulling from like a movie or a real life person. He could have just like come up with this beautiful speech in his subconscious as he's dying or whatever.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But so also I just realized that there's a connection to the last shot in this movie is fucking brilliant. The last shot to me is like kind of it it just ends on the most colorful shot of the whole movie, and you just see the snow, just this car just like
Yeah,
covered in snow, and it's just
yeah.
so sad, but it's so like what I love about oh my god, you can't this connection. So
Okay.
you know the moment in the movie when Jake's dad is talking about how can you look at a painting that
Oh shit.
and Kaufman fucking did
Oh
it.
shit.
Kaufman did it at the end. Because you look at
Yeah,
that image, it's just a static image. You don't see a, a person in it sad, but it's incredibly sad. It's about the
yeah,
context and it's about like it's just like the guy is insane. The guy is
yeah,
just like he just makes movies that I like. He
yeah.
makes movies that I like.
Yeah, also talking about, I think that that scene where it was talking about the paintings, which in that scene it was Jesse Buckley's character saying it was her paintings,
Right.
which being a painter was just one of the many vocations that she had
Yeah,
throughout the
exactly.
film.
Yeah, right,
But at
yeah,
dinner, she was a painter,
right.
and she was and I think the way she described those paintings was, I think, how describes how this movie should be thought of so well, because she was talking about, for one, that she wanted to capture landscapes, but capture the feeling of
Yeah, right,
landscapes,
right,
which is
right.
kind of exactly what this movie
Yeah,
is.
right.
It's capturing the feeling of like regret.
Or feeling of regret or the feeling of I'm gonna die.
Yeah, a
You know,
death
like
and
what
time passing.
in
Yeah,
time passing and what did I miss in my life? What
yeah.
all these things.
Or just more specifically fantasizing,
Yeah,
how it
right,
actually feels to
right,
fantasize,
right,
and
right,
capturing that through film. i
right.
think and I think that painting, I love how significant that painting thing is
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
which is why I like, which is why that dinner scene is so important, because
yeah,
that weird experience, which is the crux of what that movie should be like about, it's
right.
about them meeting the parents, has this rippling effect of coming in through like all these, in these sideways kind of ways, that sort of is staggered throughout the movie.
Yeah.
brilliant. It's
yeah.
brilliant.
It's insane. It's
You can't write
definitely
that. You just have to discover it. You have
yeah,
to discover it.
yeah. It's it's so like this is also a movie that you gotta watch. Like us, like
Yeah.
just describing it,
Sounds
like
like
isn't
madness.
gonna like you just gotta watch it. Like it's just so insane, and I'm so happy that Netflix exists
I know, me
because
too. Holy shit.
this movie would not have been made. Like
Yeah.
it just wouldn't have. Like it's like maybe it would have, but I mean, he just had awesome freedom with this movie.
Yeah.
Like and like oh, we didn't. I love that it's in 4:3. That's
Oh
another thing
yeah,
that I
yeah, yeah,
love
yeah.
is that like it kind of
I
adds to the
love that though.
claustrophobic feeling of being kind of
Which,
boxed in.
yeah, totally. Which, just speaking of the camera, I thought the cinematography and
Incredible, yeah,
the
incredible.
cinematography, sound
Fucking
design, music,
spectacular,
all
yeah.
of it was so
Yeah,
fucking. All the
spectacular.
technical stuff is
And
masterful.
it's cool because like watching Kaufman's directorial work, it kind of it's funny because like he worked with Spike Jones twice, he's worked with Michel Gondry twice, who's this like French filmmaker. Um and it's so funny because when I watch his directing style, I see both those guys. I see kind of
Yeah,
how
yeah,
they kind of both influenced his directing style when he ended up directing movies
yeah.
like when did Shingeki New York come out? Like, a while ago now, but dude, I man, I wish he made a movie every year because
I know, me
I
too.
absolutely just I love them. They
Yeah,
he literally made a movie that I probably will never, like I said, like never stop thinking about. Like
yeah.
it's just like I'll be. It's gonna be one of those movies where I'll be scrolling on Netflix and I'll just see it and I'll just think about it for like 10 minutes. I'll be like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was a
yeah.
crazy movie, dude.
The other thing about it is that a lot of films that are not conventional like this tend to be
Wait, it's
uh,
not conventional? What are you talking about, dude?
they tend to be
This is
kind
the
of
most conventional movie of 2020, dude.
but they tend to be kind of grueling experiences sometimes. Like they
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
feel like
absolutely, yeah,
work to get
yeah,
through. But this
yeah,
movie's like this was
mm-mm,
fun. Like
yeah,
that's what I love about Kaufman
yeah,
movies too. It's like
yeah,
it's just really fun to
yeah,
experience it,
yeah, absolutely.
which I
He
think is
doesn't
the
take himself
humor.
seriously.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
he
yeah,
really doesn't. And like this movie, like what we were talking about, this film's about like loss, regret, the fear
yeah,
of death, the fear
yeah,
of like that you're just a speck in time and you don't mean anything, you know, like
yeah,
all these like depressing, deep thoughts that almost every human has.
yeah,
I want to watch this movie again immediately.
yeah. I know, right?
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's so crazy. Like
Which, in one way, it's just because the themes are so deeply connecting, and also just for the puzzle of it, because
yeah,
it's just
right,
so fun.
exactly, yeah.
What am I
Such
going
a
to
puzzle.
discover this time?
Yeah,
It's great.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that like I love about his movies. Like each time I watch each one of his movies, as many times as I've seen Being Called Alchemist and uh, Eternal Sunshine, I don't like I know what they're about to me, but I still haven't really figured them out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
so much going on.
Like the lighthouse, like the
Like the
lighthouse.
lighthouse,
That's why we
exactly.
like
Yeah,
that movie
right.
so
Exactly.
much.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, great comparison. But it's just like they're just endlessly fascinating. And like
Yeah,
these are the movies that will Kaufman is going to go down as one of the great, like one of the. He just understands cinema to like a
yeah.
degree that, and it's funny because his directing career really
Just
he's only
started.
made 3 movies.
Yeah.
And like, how old is he? I mean, like 50. He's got
Uh,
to be in his 50s, but
I can look it up right now.
I can't wait until I heard about his new project, dude.
What
Like,
is it?
dude, oh my god, like, so he's developing a show for
Oh
HBO,
shit!
dude,
Oh shit!
and
He's 61.
he's 61. He looks good
He looks
for
great for
61.
61.
But yeah, dude, he's got a few more movies in him. I
Yeah,
mean, come on. I mean, just
definitely.
but so the show that he's developing it, like, it's probably gonna happen because it sounds so amazing and it's Charlie Kaufman, so, but HBO is sick, so they'll probably get the money to do it. But it's about a virus that hits the world that makes everybody stupid, and it's
I
called IQ like 65 or something. And Steve Carell is attached to star in it.
Wow,
Like,
man!
dude,
If
that
anyone,
sounds
that's
absolutely perfect. Like, I
that's
need to see that.
that's like not the craziest plot like pitch I've ever heard. And if it was by like
Yeah.
any director, I'd be like, oh, probably won't
Well,
watch
no,
that.
yeah, think about Charlie
But
Kaufman, dude.
Charlie
Yeah,
Kaufman
yeah,
directing that is
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's one of the most
yeah,
exciting things I've
exactly,
ever
yeah,
heard.
yeah. Dude, that movie is good made, kinda. It's called
Yeah, that's exactly what I
Idiocracy,
was thinking.
which
That's
I love.
exactly what
I
I
really like that movie. It's
yeah.
like different, but still though, like Kaufman like making something like that with his sense of humor.
Yeah.
Dude, that movie could be like so. That could be so funny.
Yeah.
Um,
He also wrote a book recently, which
he did.
if people like to read, which we don't talk about reading here. He wrote a book called Antkind, which you can get
Yeah,
online.
yeah. I might read that because
Yeah.
so
Dude,
I love everything about him.
you want to hear what it's about, what Antkind's about?
Well, yeah, let's look at that.
Antkind's about like a C ranking movie critic who finds this guy
Oh
who's
my,
91 years old, and he
uh-huh.
finds this guy who's made a movie that lasts 3 months, and he watches this 90-year-old director's movie that lasts 3 months, and he thinks it's the best film he's ever seen in his
Uh-huh.
life.
Yeah.
So he says, "This is my breakthrough. This is how I'm going to become like famous."
Uh-huh.
And the filmmaker then dies, and then the
Yeah.
3 month long like a film of the movie get burns in a fire, and the book is about him trying to remember what happened in this 3 month
Oh my
long movie
God.
and other surreal shit. And it's like,
That's
wow,
crazy. That's
wow.
crazy. Yeah, I gotta read that now. That's crazy.
It's called
That's sick.
Antkind.
That's so
Antkind.
dope. Yeah, man. I love this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised,
yeah.
but
It's
I
always yeah.
thought it was amazing. Thought it was,
I always think like, can he do it again? That's what I
yeah,
always go
you
into.
always think like, oh man, he's made so many great movies, but
Can he do it again?
is he gonna hit a gun at some point?
Yeah.
Nope, not
Not
yet.
yet. Not yet.
I don't really see him doing it. So, yeah, this is Thick and Butter improved if there ever
Yeah.
was a Thick
Yeah.
and Butter
Thick
approved.
and butter
I'll prove.
approved.
We gotta get like a sound bite. We gotta
Yeah.
like, I wanna get like a fucking stream deck or something and like
Yeah. Play,
fucking play that.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I'm thinking of ending things. Check
Yeah.
this movie out, man. It's fucking dope as
My
shit.
my my favorite movie I've seen that was released in 2020.
Absolutely, me too.
Definitely.
For sure.
Uh.
For sure.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Until does Doom come out this year? Probably
Oh.
not.
No. 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 No.
I doubt it.
I would be stunned if Dune comes
Well, they
out this
released that
year.
trailer, which is kind of weird. So I
Yeah.
was like, uh, is this coming out? Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you guys gonna do with this? Anyway,
Which with the trailer looked really cool.
real
But
dope.
next week, what we're going to talk about is a film of my choice, and it's a special film for episode 69. Um,
59.
I was considering making it a secret, but the last time that we were going to do a secret, COVID happened, which was the Theodore Rex episode.
Oh my god. Yeah,
So,
dude, we already mentioned that. That was one of the fucking craziest movies like
which
I've ever seen.
at some point maybe I would love to return to that. Maybe when
Yeah,
if we're living in the same place again, that would
yeah,
be fun to return to.
yeah.
But I want to watch another dinosaur themed movie, which is actually called Dinosaurs. We're gonna
You know,
watch.
some people might know what that is. You know, that's
Yeah,
a movie. When did that movie
I
come
wa-
out? 20 years ago?
2000
Yeah,
something.
like early
I watched it.
CGI.
I watched it as a kid. Um,
I think I did. I don't really have a lot of memories Like, I
See,
don't really have a memory of it. I
see, this
know
is
of it. Like, I
yeah,
know what
yeah,
it
yeah,
is. I just don't have, like, I know that the animation's fucking weird as shit. That's the
yeah.
only thing I know about it.
Yeah, see, so like it's interesting because I don't expect it to be like a great movie, but it's also Disney. So the
Yeah,
story might be kind of compelling, but
right.
holy shit. Have you seen the monkey?
The what?
The monkey
No.
of that film?
No.
Oh, dude.
I'm not gonna look at it until I watch it.
It's a horrifying Zaboomafoo. That's
I'm,
like one of the main characters is Zaboomafoo,
yeah.
and the stegus the dinosaurs have human teeth. It's very
Yes, I
weird.
know that
So
about it.
I'm really excited to
Yeah, I want
experience
to
it
watch it. I'm
because if
excited.
I would love it if I actually liked the story. That's what
That
will
would be
crack
so
me up.
funny. Like we watch, we're like, this is a good movie, dude. Dude, Dinosaur, 2020.
remake, remake, remake.
Dinosaur 2, come on.
Yeah, so
Dude,
that's
we should, I haven't even seen it, but we should start a petition.
for Dinosaur 2.
Dinosaur 2.
And we'll say
Get
we'll
like
direct it.
thousands of signatures for
Yeah.
Disney and they have to make Dinosaur 2.
Wow, that'd be
Dinosaur
funny.
2 return back in time.
I don't think that they did make a Dinosaur 2, but I
No, no,
don't
no,
think
no,
like this movie when it first came out it was groundbreaking, similar to like the
Shrek.
Star Wars Shrek. Yeah, that's a great example. Like Shrek, it's like Shrek but for dinosaurs.
We gotta review the Shrek movies at some point.
Yeah.
I have the quadrilogy in my on my Blu-ray, so
I got
I
the
bought it.
quadrilogy hanging
I
out
bought
back
it for
there.
like $10. It
Damn.
was the most shameful purchase I've ever made in my life. I think
that's
I was like,
that's
I was
comparable
at
to buying a sex doll.
kinda. I was at Barnes and Noble, and I was like 20
Yeah.
when I walked up to the fucking. That's the only thing I had. Was the Shrek quadrilogy. And they were like only $13. I'm like, alright.
All right,
He
get
just
me
looked at
out
me
of
so
here.
weird. He's like, here? Like, alright. I'm gonna go watch Shrek 3 now. Shrek the Third.
Dude, you know what you should have done is that you should have bought Shrek the quadrilogy and then like Solo.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. Oh my god, you're so
Wow.
right. Or like House or something.
Yeah.
That would have been great. All right, dude.
Anyways, that's what's up for next week. In the meantime, tell your
Friends.
grandparents, friends, tell your friends, no one else.
Grandparents. Tell your
Grand,
grandmommy about us.
tell your weird uncle who lives in an Oklahoma shed with a Tony Collette like wife, with the dog that won't stop shaking. Make sure to tell that dog because we need more dogs in our demographic.
We do.
Man, we are seriously lacking in the animal division. So if you have any pets, hey, throw on some of those earbuds on your fellow furry friends and throw on Thick and Butter because we're the entertainment. That's what we're going to advertise now. We're entertainment for pets. That's what we do.
Entertainment for pets, yeah.
Yeah.
Only rabbits.
Rabbits, furry pets.
Parrots.
Well, feathery pets too. That's cool.
Yeah, feathery. Yeah, only
Furry and feathery.
We're feather friendly. Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. Love you. Episode 68.
Hey.
One away from 69. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.